Hey there, folks. Are you passionate about democracy and concerned about the rise of authoritarianism? I'm Joanne, Kevin's wife, and I've seen him give everything to this work. That's why Coffee with Democrats matters, lifting up stories, building connections, and keeping democracy strong. So tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. for 30 minutes of conversation with elected officials, candidates, and Democratic influencers, only on Coffee with Democrats. So join me in welcoming the Executive Director and host of Coffee with Democrats, my husband, Kevin Dawson.
Well, good evening and welcome to Coffee with Democrats. I've got a special guest with me. I'm going to pull him around on the stage with me right now, and that is a good friend, Forrest Bennett. Forrest, it's great to see you again.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
It's an amazing opportunity for us to get together and talk about your activism as a representative. We were just talking before this about how some of the things I'm impressed with your plain talk on the news media, and this has been a trying year. Since last session, probably the session before that was a trying one as well with Ryan Walters, and just everything that the Republicans been trying to do to just kind of really push culture issues ahead of actual policy issues that help Oklahomans. And you guys have been fighting back as hard as you can, but boy, you guys have had your hands full, and there's a lot to talk about and unwrap in all that I just talked about.
Yeah, there sure is. And I think you're spot on with the culture war stuff. And that's been frustrating for me, especially as we see what's going on federally right now. And I've been giving a lot of thought to what broke us as a country and what we're going to do to fix it. And hopefully we can get into that a little bit, but I'm grateful to have the opportunity to talk to you.
Well, we were just talking also in the previous meeting that we were in person. We talked just a little bit about your union activism. As a former member of the FL-CIO, I belonged to the United Transportation Union. I was a union steward from 1980 until 1992, I believe it was. So I spent about 12 years as a FL-CIO member and local chairman for 1227 out of Wichita, Kansas. And again, I represented locomotive firemen and engineers at the time. But you're also very active in the AFL-CIO, and I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your possible future and what you're doing with that organization.
Sure. I'm a member of the CWA 6086, the Oklahoma State Workers Union, and we are in the process of organizing and trying to build up our membership so that we can enjoy stronger collective action. But I have worked closely with unions and with the AFL-CIO for the 9 years that I've been in the legislature, and the longtime president, Jimmy Curry, who's done an extraordinary job,
Right.
is retiring next week, actually, and there's an election for a new president, and I have thrown my hat in the ring. So we'll see by around lunchtime on Friday whether I've earned that job. But I think that in the campaign that I've run to earn the support of unions across the state of Oklahoma, I've crisscrossed the state talking to union leaders, and what I've learned a lot, and it has really opened my eyes because as a Democrat in Oklahoma in the legislature, I've tried to bring the conversation back to working family issues.
Yeah, exactly.
I've said, that I feel the folks in charge focus too much on what's going on in the bathroom and the bedroom, and not enough about what's going on the kitchen table. And I'm finding that's the case. That's the frustration across the state with union leaders, Republican and Democrat alike, because the unions include folks from all political stripes, and what they are united by is a belief in the union, and that underlies a belief in the dignity of work and the importance of being treated with dignity as a worker.
Right.
And I think that if we can refocus as politicians on that basic premise and build out from there, that we would be having much more important policy conversations and hopefully better outcomes for everybody in the state.
Correct. Right. Just rehashing in my mind the history of the state of Oklahoma. When we founded this state in 1907, it really was not favorable to the working person. It kind of favored uh, the oil barons and also the major landowners. That changed in the 1930s with the New Deal and with Roosevelt. And that really benefited the state of Oklahoma during the 1930s and 40s, the WPA projects all across the state of Oklahoma that were put in place. And the fact that we had a lot of influence from a lot of unions. I know the railroad unions were really big here in the state of Oklahoma for a long time. The Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers, the Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen and Engineers, the Brotherhood of Carmen, the Brotherhood of Railway Clerks. Those were all major organizations throughout the entire state of Oklahoma. When we started building airplanes in the area and started working out of Tinker and things like that, the airplane unions became very strong. Boeing is again a very strong union location right here. Plus all the construction workers. You talk about the plumbers, the pipers, pipe fitting unions that are out there. Some of them may be affiliated with the AFL-CIO, some of them aren't, but they have one shared common goal. All of these organizations, including the Teamsters, has one common goal, and that is to better the working person and the working class people, the middle class who have built this nation over the course of the last 75 to 100 years. So just give you a time to talk more about that. And, this is not about me talking. This is about your opportunity to talk. So.
Well, you're right. I mean, there were some protections in the 1907 Constitution. The ways in which Oklahoma's Constitution was friendly to workers were a result of the failed attempt to create the state of Sequoia back in 1905, and the Constitution that they drafted obviously ended up not becoming a state, but what was called the Shawnee Demands were these tenets of the Sequoia Convention that folks demanded to have included in Oklahoma's Constitution. And in that way, there were some sort of progressive protections, 8-hour workdays, worker protections, and of course, Oklahoma's history is really interesting because one thing, for example, that the folks in Washington were counting on was that Oklahoma would be a state that was friendlier to Black Americans, and the first bill that was signed in Oklahoma took the right to vote, away from Black people in Oklahoma. And so Oklahoma did not start off on a good foot when it came to putting their money where their mouth was on things for people. So the fight for laborers, the fight for fair working conditions and for good pay and benefits has been sort of enshrined in Oklahoma's history since its founding. And you were right that union efforts have reshaped Oklahoma in a few different places. I mean, FDR's work and his existence in the White House in the first place was thanks in part to the support of the labor movement, and the work that he created with the Works Projects Administration obviously created a culture in a lot of places. And some states across the country sort of took that and built on it. I would argue that America could use another one of those right now.
Sure. Yeah.
And building high-speed rail across the state of across the country would be incredible. But there's crumbling infrastructure everywhere. And as AI looms over us all, as it has, putting people back to work with their hands, building the next generation of sort of American infrastructure would be great, but that would require the political spine to do so. And right now there's clearly no spine in Washington, and that's been frustrating. In fact, tomorrow I think I'm going to be speaking to some government workers with AFGE. They have partnered with the Democratic Party to hold the town hall And we've got folks, doing the good work of government without a paycheck. I've got a friend out at the airport who works for TSA, and he's been working without a paycheck since October 1st. We fail, I think, oftentimes as politicians to really appreciate, the importance of the day-to-day rank and file government workers. I mean, in Oklahoma, it's frustrating to see it, and I try to put myself in the perspective of the average citizen, without sort of the blinders that this job as a legislator put on me. That all they hear about government is sort of the dysfunction of the elected officials, and they don't
Right.
think a whole lot about the dedication of the rank and file workers. I mean, in Oklahoma, you're talking about folks who work for DHS who are seeing families, on their worst day, and the folks at the Department of Labor who are making sure that people who think that they are experiencing wage theft or unfair working conditions, they're working to make sure that that they're made whole. Folks at the Attorney General's office, while Gintner is off politicking, they are doing the work of protecting taxpayers and deserve to be treated with a lot more dignity than they're being treated right now.
Right.
And it's sad to me that even within the legislature, there aren't enough members who hold them in high enough a regard to make sure that no harm comes to them, that we're making sure at every opportunity that we can increase their pay. I mean, I think that across the board, state employees deserve a $10,000 raise at minimum to keep us competitive with other states and keep us competitive with the private sector,
Right.
because it's important work. And people look to the legislature and see that there's a lot of dysfunction, and that's a fair assessment. But they should not loop in your day-to-day dedicated public servants who are nonpartisan, who are doing the work, making sure that people are getting connected to the resources that they need, all the way up to the legislative assistants that work for us. Like Connie, my legislative assistant, has worked at the Capitol for 38 years. And knows state government in and out, and can help folks. She knows within 30 seconds of a phone call whether or not our office is going to be able to help them, and if not, she knows where to direct them. So people like Connie exist all throughout state government, and deserve to be protected. They deserve to be treated with dignity, and it would behoove us to make sure that we hold on to as many of those folks as possible. I'm ranting now, but
No, I love it.
you've
Keep
invited
it
a politician
going.
on your show. What were you expecting?
Yeah, keep it going. I love it. It's exactly what we need, and it's the kind of voice that we need to get people inspired, keep people moving, keep people active. Because the last thing we need to do is fall back into our old sedentary self and decide, well, it's just not worth it this time. When that we see the decline in the number of voters that are out there. We need your voice to help inspire people and keep people going. And especially when you're traveling around the state in rural Oklahoma, where people really need to hear your voice. To me, that's the kind of activity we really need to be focused on. You did talk a little bit about we're going to be losing SNAP benefits on September 1st, possibly, and then WIC, I think, is they're pushing to eliminate that, or put some pressure on the Democrats because they want to eliminate WIC at the same time. And again, that's women, infants, and children. That's what WIC stands for. And it's a sad state of affairs that we're using the poorest people in the country as political pawns by the Republicans to try to force something to take away the more rights and more benefits away from the poor. So, it's like we're in a dead end situation, or irreversible situation, where if we go along with them, we're going to lose benefits. If we fight them, we're going to lose benefits. So
Yeah.
I don't know whether
So
you want to
walk
talk
hard
about that issue or not, but
it's just a shame to me. And Washington's clearly broken. One thing that stands out to me as a legislator is the complete abdication of responsibility that specifically the Republicans
Yeah.
have shown us. I mean, if for no other reason than having pride in your own branch of government, some of these folks need to stand up to the president and say, look, there are powers that um, you are sort of usurping that are squarely ours. I mean, the power of
Right.
the purse is Congress. And here in Oklahoma, Tom Cole is the chair of the Appropriations Committee. I mean, that is incredible power, and he
Right.
has been in Congress for a long time and accrued a lot of power and a lot of friends in order to earn that job. And here he is with the rest of his colleagues absolutely abdicating his responsibility, and it is shameful. I mean, this speaker of ours is Mike Johnson is the weakest speaker in the history of this country, as far as I'm concerned. And the president himself calls himself the speaker and the president. I mean, it's embarrassing, and Mike should be embarrassed. And
Oh,
everyone who
absolutely.
stands around him, including Stephanie Bice, frankly, who I saw standing with him today at a press conference, should be embarrassed because the people in Oklahoma's 5th congressional district, or mine, the 3rd congressional district, because I got drawn out of the 5th one despite living in inner city Oklahoma City, deserve better.
Right.
And we can have political differences. We can have arguments about the role of government and all of that. Take me back to those days. Take me back to the boring
Please.
days
Yeah.
of your normal political disagreements, the size and scope of government, where our money is supposed to go, but to just abdicate our responsibility entirely to the president, and now, yes, using sort of the most vulnerable Americans as pawns. And Oklahoma specifically is a huge welfare state when it comes to federal dollars. Uh,
Absolutely.
I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about the state itself relying so heavily on the federal government, which they have done for a long time. In my 9 years in the legislature, I have seen many of my Republican colleagues sort of, shit talk, for lack of a better phrase, the federal
Sure.
government with, out front while sort of in the background saying, yeah, but we're going to rely on those federal dollars. And you've seen sort of a small microcosmic example of what happens when that sort of lever is shut, when Ryan Walters sort of abdicated his responsibility to make sure that they were getting as many federal dollars in for education, and that consequence will be tenfold if that federal money doesn't come in to help us in our other areas, and it will
Right.
force Oklahoma into a tough political situation where my Republican colleagues are going to have to find a way to raise revenues to continue some of the services that people rely on, or they will have to do the unpopular work of shutting those programs down, which the president apparently seems more than happy to do. But I do not think that many of my Republican colleagues want to do that to their constituents, because, to your point, Kevin, a lot of rural Oklahoma will suffer the hardest.
Right. Right. Our farmers and ranchers are out there. We've got soybeans now are being farmed out to Argentina, I think it is, and then Argentine beef is coming into the United States. And I saw a deal on Trump. But I'm going to go back to what you said earlier about. I'm going to bring up this headline from July 30th, where Cole says no cuts at Tinker, funding increase for National Weather Service. And then this last week, when I was listening to, when we were listening at the No Kings rally, and we were told then that we had lost 130 full-time employees out here at NOAA, here in Norman, where I live. And he says this week that he guarantees that he's not going to lose anything from the FAA Aeronautic Training Center. And he says that it's going to be fully funded and funding increases, but he doesn't say anything about whether we're going to keep our current employees. So I don't trust the man. I think he's flat out lying to us. That's my language and my opinion. And I think we could do better. We've got two good candidates in CD4 that are running right now, Jeff Pixley and Mitch Jacob. I think both of them ex-veterans, highly respected here in the 4th District. It's going to be steel, sharpening steel going into the primary. And then one of them is going to come out, and I hope really cutting hard against trying to cut the knees up from underneath Cole to make him abdicate or lose that election. It's going to be a tough one, but I think we got an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I am programmed to be bipartisan where I need to be, and I have worked for 9 years with Republicans, some of whom I genuinely believe want good things, but we have vastly different views about how to get there. Tom Cole has been a fixture in in Oklahoma politics since I've started paying attention, and that's one of those guys that you have fundamental disagreements with, but I always thought he was pretty savvy and had the best interests of the state in mind, despite those interests not necessarily aligning with mine. I mean, he has brought a lot back home to the district and to Oklahoma, especially when it comes to um, you know military bases, and and again, it just goes back to this shock that I have that folks like him, who have more institutional knowledge about American
Right.
government than our president does,
Right.
uh, than our speaker does, and is choosing to sit idly by, I would be raising some hell. And the reality is, I think that he could. I want to believe that he could survive that. And
Right.
if not, then what are you doing in office anyway? And I say this to anybody: if you are not willing to speak your mind, and stand up for the values that you really believe in, then what are you doing in office?
Right.
And that goes for a lot of folks at every level, but specifically right now to those members of Congress who let's have the debate. I mean, let's have a very public debate. If the Republicans have an alternative health care plan so that people don't, end up paying twice or triple what they're paying now for health insurance coverage, show us the plan. But if you don't have it, extend these subsidies so that people are not priced out of healthcare at the same time as they're being priced out of property insurance, at the same time they're being priced out of being able to afford groceries, rent, mortgages. I mean, it's all too much for the average American, and so that I think is lost in the context of this conversation around healthcare, because I think that the Democrats that are standing up and saying we've got to fix this have that in mind. I think that we could be doing a better job of selling this message, but the reality is they are thinking about that in the context of the higher cost of living all across the board. And the irony of that is that a lot of people claim they voted for Trump this time because they were upset about high prices, and they have only
Right.
gone up. And that is
Right.
fact. We are not
Right.
having a partisan conversation here. But when it comes to that, you and I can say this all we want, Kevin. You know what I mean? And we have been. And I think that there will be people who see us complaining about this and say, well, of course, they're Democrats. They've always felt this way. I need my Republican friends to stand up and speak out. I need my
Right.
Republican friends who I know, because behind closed doors, have expressed frustration and fear and anger, to say it out loud, because it is only when they do that that their followers will wake up to the reality of what's going on right now. Will give them permission to also be upset, because the people that are twisting themselves into pretzels to justify the actions of this administration must have some deep shame about that. And
Right.
I want them to be freed of that shame. I want them to be able to be their authentic self. And it's not to say that they are, that they are giving up their positions politically. Again, I want disagreements. That is the way this country, that is the whole enchilada when it comes to this American experiment. One,
Right.
that we have the ability to disagree with each other and live together anyway. And two, that through representative democracy, every 2 years with Congress and every 4 years with the executive and every 6 years with our senators, you are given a choice about the direction that you want your district to go, your representation to go, or the country to go. And we pick one of those avenues, and we go down it. And if we don't like it 4 years from then, we change our mind. And we've lost sight of that. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that social media algorithms have sorted us into our corners,
Yeah.
that media has been bought by corporate oligarchs, and they are feeding their messages down through the talking heads, and that we don't live in this world where Walter Cronkite gave us the news every night, and
Yes.
everybody had opinions, but it was about the same set of facts. Everybody picked up the same paper in the morning, read the news, and used their critical thinking skills to decide how they felt about it. We have
Right.
lost We have lost that in this country. I don't know how we get that back. But my idea of Make America Great Again is to make America a society that sort of goes to the same well for their information and has the ability to think critically about what they learned.
Right.
And I think that my deepest fear for our country is not the politicians that we should never put too much faith in, but in ourselves and our pride in ourselves. I mean, if we're going to complain about Congress abdicating its responsibility, I think we should also think about our responsibility as citizens. And it's really hard to acknowledge that when we are torn in so many different directions. But I think that there are a lot of folks out there who may not realize it, but they're not getting the satisfaction that they thought that they were going to get from getting ChatGPT to answer all their questions for them.
Yeah.
And I hope that people will continue to wake up to that reality. But time will tell. And yet I think that each of us has an individual responsibility, to talk about these things with our spheres of influence.
Well, man, it is so awesome to see you and meet you virtually this time. I wish we were in person. We will be in person soon because we are going to move this studio out of my home. It's going to be moved down to the Cleveland County Democrats office, and we're going to actually have a studio down there that I'm going to help build so that we can have this conversation in person from now on, that we don't have to do it just completely virtually. We are always going to have the virtual option available because not everybody can travel down here to Norman or want to travel all the way to Norman on a Tuesday night. But
I'm happy to go to God's country anytime.
Yes. And it's a pleasure to see you. I love everything that you've said. I love everything that you've pointed out. I wish we could go on for hours and hours, but I think that we would bore people to death. But you and I would have an exciting time doing it.
I think we would. We could keep talking until our viewership was at zero.
Yes. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on Coffee with Democrats, and we'll do this again soon, especially after Friday. We'll find out what's going on. We'll try to report back to people on the outcome and what your future is going to be after Friday. So
sounds great. I really appreciate the invitation to talk, and I look forward to coming to the studio and doing some more conversation. Please, if you do need to hire out some labor, hire union.
Yes,
okay?
Absolutely.
I'm contractually obligated to say that, and excited to say that. It has been a real honor to talk to those folks. But anyway, thank you, Kevin. Thank you for the work that you do to elevate the voice of Democrats.
Well, and I'm still a card-carrying Teamster, so I forgot to say that earlier. I said it was former that FLC, but I carry a retirement Teamster card that I had, and that's another story we can talk about another time. But hey, thanks again. I appreciate it. Hey, folks, until next Tuesday, 7 p.m., please be safe and continue to push the Democrat cause, because we really have to do everything we can. Again, it's a 60-40 state that we're in. It's 60% Republican, 40% Democrat and independent and libertarian and non-political, whatever. But guess what? We're always Oklahomans, and we can come together. Just like we've seen in the Moore tornado, we can come together and bring up the Oklahoma standard, and we can drive those issues together. So, hey, everybody, we'll see you next Tuesday. And until then, please be safe. This segment of Coffee with Democrats is brought to you by Steve Holcomb, Attorney at Law. With family ties to Oklahoma in the legal field that goes back as far as the early 1900s, Steve Holcomb is a well-known and respected attorney at law in Pawhuska, Oklahoma.